All right, then, ladies and gentlemen, we are live on the Mid South Wrestling Center podcast. I just wanted to start about 15 minutes early, just make sure everybody can tune in. This is our debut episode. I have the Golden Boy Greg Anthony and Downtown Bruno in the backstage area right now. I'll bring them on here in about 10-15 minutes. I just want to make sure everybody can see me, make sure my microphone is loud enough so you guys can hear me. Just kind of making sure I'm not lagging, no video glitches, stuff like that. Once we get some people in here, but I just kind of want to, like I said, I just kind of want to make sure that everybody can see me. Sorry, I'm looking down at my phone, making sure that we are live to the people at home. Like I said, I believe this is going to be a great podcast episode. Don't forget, starting today, every Sunday at 2 p.m., we'll be doing a live Mid South Wrestling Center podcast live on YouTube and Facebook. I just kind of wanted to hop on here about 10 minutes early, make sure everybody can see me, make sure my audio is good. First time using StreamYard. I don't know really a lot about it just yet, but we're going to get to knowing it real well. I see we had one viewer. Back on sinuses. See, make sure we are still live on Facebook. Hope everybody can check us out. Okay, we are live. Just kind of confirming that we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Like I said, I just wanted to get on here with you guys about 10 minutes early, 5 minutes early. Just make sure everybody can hear me, everybody can see me. We have the Golden Boy Greg Anthony and Downtown Bruno in the backstage area right now. We'll be bringing them on here shortly. I just kind of, like I said, I just kind of wanted to get on here, make sure everybody is good, can see me. Sure there's no lag, no glitches, stuff like that. No stitching. Also, if you guys want to comment, say anything, whether you're tuning in live on our Facebook page or tuning in live from YouTube, we can see your guys' comments. I can even highlight some comments. Maybe if you guys have any questions for the Golden Boy Greg Anthony in downtown Bruno, don't hesitate to send them in. I'll pop them up on the screen and maybe we can go over them. We got a lot of great topics we're going to go over with them today. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be going live in just almost 5 minutes. 5 minutes, we'll be going live. Well, we are live, but we will be starting up the podcast in just approximately 5-6 minutes. Just kind of wanted to get on here, make sure everybody can tune in, make sure everybody is good to go. So we have our one viewer and one like. Can't exactly see. Mr. Chad Hickson is watching live. Live on our Facebook. Chad, if you like I said, if you have any comments or questions or anything like that, we can definitely see your comments. If you have any questions for Greg Anthony or Downtown Bruno, don't hesitate to send them in. I said we are now 5 minutes away. We'll be bringing in the current AIWF World Heavyweight Champion, the Golden Boy Greg Anthony, in Downtown Bruno in just 4 minutes. Got a checking in on our Facebook Live. It seems got a little delay in there, but hopefully everybody can still see me, can still hear me. Nothing's glitching out. Kind of got a lot of great topics we're going to cover today. Like I said, I'm just kind of checking our live, make sure we're still live everywhere. Like I said, I noticed we kind of have a little bit of a delay in our Facebook Live, but as long as we are still live and everybody can still see us, can still hear us, we are good to go. Like I said, we are only 2 minutes away. We're just 2 minutes away from the beginning of the debut episode. I'm hoping that everybody can Check us out each and every Sunday at 2 p.m. We're going to try not to go too long. Next Sunday, just want to put this over with you guys next Sunday. Episode 2, we have 1/3 of the legendary Mid-South Tag Team, Picture Perfect. John Michael will be in the studio. Got a lot of great topics to cover with him as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just 1 minute away. All right, then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now be playing the intro, and we will see you guys here in just a minute. All right, then, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the debut episode of the Mid-South Wrestling Center podcast. My name is Cody Bowers. I am your host in the backstage area, and here in just a minute, we will be bringing on the current AIWF World Heavyweight Champion, the Golden Boy, Greg Anthony, and Memphis Wrestling Hall of Famer, Downtown Bruno. Let's bring them into the stage right now.
Oh, okay.
We are live, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Rock and rolling.
Can you hear us okay, Cody?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. You guys kind of have a little bit of delay, but we'll work with it.
No problem.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So how are you guys doing today?
Tired, man. We had a big night in Dyersburg last night at the Herb Welch Wrestleplex. As you know, you were there.
Oh, yeah.
I refereed the main event, which was a tag team match, which was a Game Time James Elliott and the Real Foot Saint Brandon Ray against the Punishment Company, which is David Jason Rose and, of course, Indestructible Thud Powell. So naturally, being in a big match like that, I'm a little bit exhausted. Of course, he had a match too last night with the master of elocution, the Disco Man.
Disco Key Awesome.
Yes.
So I got my groove on a little bit last night. I showed my dance moves for the first time in a few years. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. So, I guess we can go straight into topics.
Sure. Rock on.
The first topics I wanted to bring up with you guys is what got you guys into professional wrestling? What piqued your interest about professional wrestling that made you guys want to go, hey, I want to do this?
I'll let my friend start, and then I'll give you mine after his.
Of course.
Well, like I tell everybody, my earliest memories of life aren't of a birthday cake or a new bike or anything like that. My earliest memories of life are sitting on my grandmother's knee, the Golden Granny, and watching professional wrestling. So I grew up, with that being my earliest memories, is watching Ric Flair and Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson and that kind of thing. And it was just always there, you know what I mean? And I just had a love for it from very, very early on. And, luckily, the way God works and the way the business works, I just kind of found my way into it. I fell into it. So I'm grateful every day for that.
Oh, yeah.
And myself, I actually I guess you could say I fell into it too. I was at a fair in West Virginia, and a guy named Dale Mann, who had Mid-Continent Wrestling back then, had an event at the fair. And they asked me to stay on and help take down the ring afterwards. And this was in 1979. I said, yeah. They want to know that I want to move on. They were going on a whole tour of fairs, ended up in South Dakota. And I went with them. And I've been making a living in the professional wrestling / sports entertainment industry ever since. And that's in April, because it was April 8th, of 79. So it'll be 46 years this coming April.
All right, cool deal. Cool deal. Glad to hear that, professional wrestling, of course, both of you two are big names in the Mid-South area. Golden Boy Greg Anthony, you are the current AIWF World Heavyweight Champion. Downtown Bruno, you are a Memphis Wrestling Hall of Famer and WWE legend.
Well, I appreciate it. And hey, don't sell yourself short. You do a great job as helping coordinate a lot of the backstage goings on at Pro Wrestling Mid-South. And you're a really good announcer. You do a commentary on occasion. And you give yourself, I'll give you the credit where you don't, you're too humble to give it to yourself. You do a great job. That's why both of us are happy to be here to help you out on your initial podcast. And I wish you huge success at it.
Well, I really
the
appreciate
main things too is, Cody's very loyal. He's been with us for 8 years, right?
Yes, sir.
8
I
years.
have.
So and he never had an ounce of trouble out of him in 8 years. So yeah, we love coming on and helping people that that help us. And like you said, you're doing a great job with coordinating some of our backstage stuff and helping with the technical aspects of pro wrestling in the South. And a lot of people don't understand, as much as we are very wrestling, a lot of that technical stuff, the show wouldn't get done if it wasn't for that.
Very true. That's very true.
No.
And Cody, don't forget to forward the link or whatever you call it to Downtown Bruno Bookings and Appearances. My good friend Dan Matthews runs that Facebook page called Downtown Bruno Bookings and Appearances. You put this on there, and all the people that follow that will be able to link or whatever the word is, and they'll be able to watch this in the future.
Oh yeah. I'll definitely do that once this is over with. But I really appreciate the compliment from you two. It really hits me.
Yeah, hey, you deserve it. I'm very open about constructive criticism too, and you haven't done anything to be constructively criticized about. And if you did, I would tell you in a friendly way, in a helpful way.
Well, I learned since day one that in professional wrestling, there's too many. How can you say it? There's too many people that are too hard in the business, make the business too hard.
Yeah.
For people, and I just kind of I'm just one of those, hey, I go with the flow type guys anyway.
Well, that's it. Some guys, I'm going to tell you, and for the young guys that might be listening to this or watching this, that are thinking about breaking in, always remember this. Okay, this man right here and myself make our living in this profession. If you go to be trained to be in this profession, don't go to get trained by somebody that has never made their living at it. How can they teach you to do something for a living that they wish they could do for a living, but they're not? Think about that. I want all the young people to think about that. It makes sense. Hey, I know how to change a tire and change my oil in my car and do, odds and ends on my truck or whatever. But by God, I ain't professing to be a mechanic, and I damn sure couldn't teach you or anybody else how to be one. Think about it. Just because some guy gets in the ring doesn't make him a wrestler. Just no more than if I get in the garage doesn't make me a mechanic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to add what Bruno's saying too, you want somebody that that makes a living in professional wrestling, but also you want someone that's going to take care of you too, because there's a lot of guys that did make a living in professional wrestling, and sometimes they're just in a money grab for training, and they're not really training guys properly. You know what I mean? And they're just trying to get as much money as they can. That's where Cody, you've seen our training firsthand. I literally care about everyone that walks through our doors and wants to give this a shot. So, and I'm trying to usher them into professional wrestling the best I can and give them as much knowledge. Our training program is a 2-year program. And I think by the end of the 2 years, they're going to be the absolute best they could possibly be in professional wrestling at the end of that 2 years.
And
Oh
I've
yeah.
been to the training over there at the Herb Wells WrestlePlex myself, and I've seen it firsthand. Those guys, they're not, you don't break in, learn how to do suplexes and go over the top rope and whatever. No, they'll learn how to take proper flat bumps and learn how to lock up and hit the ropes and whatnot. That's the thing. You got to crawl before you can walk. You got to walk before you can run, and you got to run before you can fly. You know what I mean? So that's the proper way to do it.
Oh yeah. The Pro Wrestling Mid-South Academy. It's very intuitive. It's it's like you guys put over. I mean, you guys, the Pro Wrestling Mid-South Academy will make you a professional. It may not make you a star, but it will make you a professional.
Yeah, I mean, once you learn the basics and you know what to do, then it's up to you. And it's, you know what? It ain't always up to you too. Sometimes it's just who you know, who wants to help you, what breaks you get, and sometimes you might deserve a break and you don't get it. And a guy that don't deserve a break gets it. Now, I'm not going to mention any names. I'm going to keep this podcast positive, and there are some other wrestling academies in this Mid-South area, and I'm not going to put any of them down. There's some really good guys down in Memphis. There's some really good guys, in Arkansas and in Mississippi. I'm not going to put any of them down. So, just do your homework before you sign up anywhere. It includes with I'd say hours. I don't have any stake in it, but I consider this my own promotion here. Do your homework in hours. And hey, and I'm sure Golden Boy would agree with me. If somebody came and observed a training and that didn't feel like it was for them, no hard feelings. We're not going to force anybody to do something they don't want to do if they don't feel it's for them. But I personally feel this is a great place to learn.
Absolutely. We're not going to force anybody to do anything. I mean, you got to have the will and want to. And I tell everybody, it's a commitment. It's a 2-year commitment to do this kind of thing, with us. And like, I want people to understand that before I make them read through the contract, intensively, so they understand each part of it. So there's no surprises for them. So they know exactly what they're getting into. And I'm going to take care of them the best I can. Everyone that works for Pro Wrestling South currently is either someone we've trained from scratch or someone we mentored from very, very early on in their careers. And I think that's a testament to who we are and what we do.
And think about this. Quite a few members of Pro Wrestling Mid-South actually appeared either as a well-known WWE superstar or a background member of wrestling on the Young Rock. I mean, Greg himself, Brandon Ray, Thud Powell,
James Elliott,
David Jason Rose. Was there anybody else? Well, me, but hell.
Downtown Bruno.
And there were some guys from other leagues around here that were on there too. And hey, more power to them too. I have nothing but good things to say about all those guys. The Gun Show, great guy, looked great. Here's what's funny: if you know the Gun Show is big, muscled up guy, super guy, Brett Michaels. He was my stand-in on Young Rock. Here's a guy that's probably 6'4" and 280 pounds of solid muscle, and he's my stand-in on Young Rock. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Speaking of the Young Rock, we're going to get to that a little bit, but it's bad. And Greg is a movie connoisseur, as I like to call him. He knows everything, but it's bad whenever the actor who plays Downtown Bruno, it's instantly Soul Plane is where I recognize him from.
Right. And he was also on Punk'd.
Okay.
When he was a young kid, when he first started acting, he was the little rap kid on Punk'd. Wow. I never used to watch that show, but I looked at it on YouTube, whatever, after I got to know him. His name's Ryan Pinkston. Great guy. We became very close friends. He was on Punk'd. He was on Soul Plane. He did a one-off on Grey's Anatomy. He's done a lot of different, things. We became really close friends. He first became me in Australia. Well, I wasn't in Australia, but I was executive consultant for the Memphis wrestling Art on Young Rock, and we had Zoom meetings every week. Me, him, Brian Gewirtz, and various writers and producers, directors, wherever they are. And he had to learn how to be me. And by God, and I'm proud for him on this. He did a good job. He did his homework. And I'm saying this to be funny, but it's true. He made more money pretending to be me than I ever made being me.
Well, I'm just popping this up for you guys. We got James Wiggins. He is my co-host, but we didn't want too many people on this one episode. Like I said, this is a double guest episode, but he said, "What's up, my brothers?"
Well, tell James Blaze Wiggins that we said hey, and looking forward to seeing him. I'll be back in Pro Wrestling Mid-South December 28th for the a special induction. We're not going to say who it is yet, but special induction for the Hall of Champions. And then I'll be back. Oh yeah, I'll be back January 4th for the yearly award show. I'll be hosting it. Then I'll be away till at least mid to late February. So if you want to see me, you got two more chances, the 28th and the 4th. I won't be in Ripley again for a while, but probably mid to late February, I'll be back to referee again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But stay tuned for the announcement of who we're inducting into the Pro Wrestling Mid-South Hall of Champions on December 28th.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
At the Winter Classic.
And you know what? Since I'm hosting the awards thing January 4th, which is the following week after that, I think I should maybe referee at least one match on the 28th, even though I'm going to help with the induction. What do you think?
We'll talk to the championship committee, and I'm pretty sure we can arrange that.
So everybody come down on the 28th. I'm going to more than likely referee. I'll definitely be making an appearance. And then after January 4th, you won't see me for over a month and a half. So come down and see me.
Well, I think I kind of have a little bit of a pull with the championship committee as me being Ripley branch manager.
All right, well, I won't be in Ripley, but I will be in
Yeah, well, I think I still got that little bit of pull. Yeah, I think I still got that little bit of pull. Maybe I can talk them into it.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
But next topic we got on the agenda, I guess you both can comment on this one. You were talking about the Memphis territories. I know you, Bruno, you have a front row seat for that. How was it working in the Mid-South or Memphis area territory?
Let me tell you, nobody that wasn't there at the time would understand what it was like, because this is before the WWF at the time took off to become the worldwide phenomenon it is. Anybody that wanted to watch wrestling, the only wrestling they seen was Memphis wrestling. Now I'm gonna tell you something, and this is a fact, you can look it up. Memphis wrestling in its prime, which I was part of, thank the Lord, was the highest rated show in the entire city of Memphis besides the local news. We beat ratings-wise Roseanne, Cheers, The Cosby Show, whatever. More people watched Channel 5, Memphis Wrestling, than anything else in Memphis but the local news. That's a fact. Now, I'll say this, and when I tell this to people that weren't even born yet during those days or didn't know, they think I'm lying. I know in my local area what it's like worldwide for somebody like Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt and whatnot, when they get besieged by people wanting to take their picture, get their autograph, or whatever, like the paparazzi. Trust me when I tell you, back in the 80s, that's how it was for each and every one of us that was featured on Memphis Wrestling. Now, Jerry the King Lawler, of course, was the main guy. And then you got Bill Dundee, Jeff Jarrett, and quite a few others. Bear in mind, I managed 4 or 5 different guys at a time. So I had more TV time than even Lawler back in the 80s during my run, because he would have his segment, maybe another one. I would have 4 or 5 segments. So I was so highly featured and pushed back then. I was seen more than anyone. So believe me, I was part of something magic that'll never be replicated. And I'm grateful for it for the rest of my life. It made my life.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. I love the Memphis. I love the Memphis territory. Love watching old videos and with downtown Bruno. You did a great job back then. Very, very good job.
Well, I appreciate it. I did my best. The less I knew, the better I was. The more I started learning the business and getting further into the business, the more I thought about stuff. And it didn't come out right. I was better off when I was stupid. I mean that because I didn't give a damn. I was doing whatever I wanted, and I started learning. Maybe I shouldn't do this. And the stuff that I was doing that I shouldn't have been doing was getting over. So I don't know. The problem is we get too soon old and too late smart.
Oh yeah. Did you have any comments, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like my family, we're originally from Southern Illinois, so like we didn't have Memphis television in early in my life. So like what we got in Southern Illinois, we got WWF, obviously, we got Crockett, and then we got World Class. Right? So those were the three that I was really exposed to early on, and then we moved to West Tennessee in '88. In '88, I'm a kid. I'm switching through channels on Saturday morning, and of course, I see Memphis wrestling. And who do I see? The first two people I see are Lawler and Dundee.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, what's this? And then I started learning about Memphis wrestling, Memphis territory. And I was just telling the trainees the other day, like when I first started wrestling, I was touted as kind of a technical wrestler. You know what I mean? Like I was, I wanted to be like a Dean Malenko, and I watched a lot of Japanese wrestling, and I did a lot of this and a lot of that. And then at some point, I had to realize like what's really going to sell professional wrestling? What is the best form of storytelling in professional wrestling? And nowadays, like I said, I don't wrestle like Dean Malenko. I wrestle like Jerry Lawler. You know what I mean? He's firmly in my top 5 wrestlers of all time now because of the influence he's had on my style of work and what I do. Of course, I still love, beautiful Bobby Eaton. I still love Ric Flair and Arn Anderson and a lot of that kind of style. And I kind of try to mesh all that together. But, that Memphis style, that Lawler style has really influenced not just me personally, but pro wrestling in the South and the guys that are coming up through our academy and things of that nature.
Oh yeah. I know the past couple podcasts that I've been on, the most recent one, Rick Del Santo, Buster H.R. Johnson, stuff like that. The number one question is, always about the Memphis, with us being so close to the Memphis territory, what my opinion on it is. And I'm
Right.
like, Memphis is great. It's top number 1 wrestling oriented towns. But I still got to make the comment. I don't think a lot of people quite realize the wrestling rich history of Dyersburg, Tennessee at all.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of been my whole basis for what we're doing. When I was coming up, all anyone ever wanted to do was talk about Memphis. And I completely get that because Memphis was what it was. But like Bruno said, it'll never be that way again. So in my thought was, let's try to build Dyersburg up to the best it could be, So like, Dyersburg's had, a weekly show of some kind, probably since the 40s. I go back and I look at some results from the 40s, and we've got Rowdy Red Roberts, and we've got Herb Welch, and we've got Billy Wicks, and we've got all these guys that came through Memphis, and when we had Ron Fuller come in, we inducted him into the Hall of Champions. Of course, the Fullers and the Welches and the Jarretts and all that, the whole family connection. They said that Dyersburg, Tennessee was the hub, was the main city for all Southern professional wrestling. Most of the decisions that were made in professional wrestling in the southern half of the United States were made in Dyersburg, Tennessee. And that was a huge thing to me because here I am. I've been trying to sell Dyersburg as we could be this for the last 20 some years, and here's a guy saying, "Hey, it was this at one point,"
Right.
And it could be.
Yeah.
What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. When in the heyday of my career in Memphis wrestling, we'd come to Dyersburg. We used to wrestle Dyersburg Central High School right there on 51, and we always had a good house here. It's always been a great wrestling town. Dyer County, Obion County, up in Union City, which I believe that's Obion County. Yeah. This whole Northwest Tennessee area. But yeah, Dyersburg was the central part. But yeah, all the towns, Troy, Tennessee. And this is a great area. I've always loved it here.
Did you ever wrestle the Southtown Sports Arena?
I don't think so. I remember being at the high school there, but still there.
Right.
And then Troy, Tennessee.
Right. Yeah, Southtown Sports Arena. It's pretty famous. It's still standing here in Dyersburg, and I went in there and kind of looked around. It's pretty neat, but yeah, a lot of guys. Orndorff came through there. Hogan came through there. A bunch of the guys came through there. So it's got a rich history too. It'd be nice to have it. I don't know what's that called when they make the historical site.
Yeah, when they make a historical landmark where you can't knock it down.
Can't knock it down.
Yeah.
So that'd be an interesting thing for us.
Right.
Yeah, Dyersburg definitely has a rich history, and we love adding to it. And not just pro wrestling in the South. In the last 10 years, we've had guys from all over the world come to wrestle right here in Dyersburg. We've had guys from Japan, we've had guys from Australia, we've had people from England, we've had people from all the world. World titles, NWA World Championships have changed hands right here in Dyersburg.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge deal.
That's huge. And we've also had appearances by guys such as Chavo Guerrero, Dirty King Lawler. I don't say myself because I'm a semi-regular here, but
Downtown Bruno.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here,
Bruno.
on a every other month basically basis. I've been here a lot more this past month and next month than usual because it's been special circumstances. But I mean, you never know who's going to pop up. Have we ever had Jimmy Hart here?
We had Jimmy Hart and Ripley.
Okay, yeah. We've had the Rock and Roll Express here, multi-time world NWA tag team champions. I mean, you never know. Stay tuned not only to this great podcast, but check out Pro Wrestling Mid-South on the Facebook because you can always keep up with who's going to be here. Trust me, we don't keep it as a secret. Right. I mean, this induction, we're not keeping it a secret. We're just making people anticipate.
Yeah, we're waiting just a minute.
Yes. We're going to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, but it's coming. And everybody, stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Yeah, I just had to put a note on the Rock and Roll Express. Multi-time NWA World Tag Team Champions and former Mid-South Tag Team Champions.
Okay.
Or Pro Wrestling Mid-South.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're lucky to have them in part of our Mid-South Tag Team title history, So, fun fact that when before we had Rocky Johnson and Ricky Morton working for us a little bit there, I was actually going to put them together.
Oh,
I was going to call them the Rock and Soul Express.
That would have been good. That would have been good.
Yeah.
Rocky Johnson, that's a name. He's like family to me. I mean, here's another fun fact. Rocky Johnson is the one that made me a manager. So
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, Rocky Johnson. Yeah. I was trying to manage for the Dale Mann thing. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I had no business at ringside. So I went back to refereeing, put up the ring, whatever. Then I got out to Kansas City. And Rocky says, "Have you ever managed?" And I said, "I tried it, but I wasn't good at it." He goes, "Well, you didn't have the right teacher," or whatever. Anyway, Rocky wanted me to manage, but Bob Geigel, who was a great guy, I loved him, but he was old school. He was like the Vern Gagne thing. He like the guys with the big barrel chests and yeah. And I wasn't into that. And he didn't want me managing to run around and scream and yell and draw money. I just stood in the corner. I made interviews. Every now and then I'd get up and trip a guy, go sit back down, whatever. Rocky Johnson says, "You're not going to get nowhere here." He goes, "How about I'm doing the booking in Hawaii. I'm going back. How about I book you in the Polynesian Pacific territory?" This is 1983.
Right.
And he made me a manager. That's where I might be jumping ahead of what you might want to ask, but we're on it now. Believe it or not, I didn't meet Lawler in Memphis. I met Lawler in Honolulu. I was working for the Polynesian Pacific Championship Wrestling. And I was managing different guys there. I was managing a guy named Cowboy Rick Patterson, actually. And Lawler said to Rocky, "I'd like to have that guy come to the ring with me, if that's okay." Rocky goes, "Sure." I managed Lawler at the big show at the NBC Arena in Honolulu against Superfly Tui, not Snuka, Tui. Anyway, Lawler loved my work, and that's what got me to Memphis. And that's where everything took off from there. So a lot of guys helped me at the beginning. It wasn't one particular guy, but Rocky Johnson's the one that's got it really rolling for me. And my dear friend, and I used to babysit his 7-year-old son over there, too.
And who was that?
Y'all might not have heard of him, Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to him?
He tried to wrestle as Flex Cavana, just didn't
pan out.
Didn't pan out.
Yeah.
So there's my story.
So
Well,
let me ask you this though. Like you said, you started in West Virginia, right? Where were you living? Were you living in West Virginia? Or were you?
Yeah, I was living in West Virginia at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. I was born in West Virginia. I've been here since I was 14, and I'm 59 now. So
I got you.
So I was born in West Virginia, but
So you never saw Lawler wrestle when you were?
yeah, because my grandmother was from DeSoto County, where I'm
Okay.
from, so I would come in the summertime.
Yeah, I got you.
So yeah, I see. Yeah,
I was trying to.
yeah. Well, the Memphis wrestling was the wrestling in West Virginia too.
Was it?
There was 3 different wrestlings that would come on up there on the little local channel. The Southeastern,
Yeah.
which was out of Knoxville,
Right.
and Dale Man had a little TV.
In Ohio.
Yeah, and then us, or Memphis, so you could watch it up there out of wherever. So yeah, it was funny. There was no where we was at. There was no WWF, I think it was even. It's hard to say, but yeah, it's
Yeah, that's what it was.
yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
You learn something new every day, Cody.
That's
Oh,
the thing
yeah.
about the business.
Yeah,
I've been doing it for almost 46 years. I still learn something new every day. And it's funny, when we be at, whether I'm at Pro Wrestling Mid-South or I go to the other organizations like Bluff City Wrestling, which I really like that organization too. Some guys, I'll be doing the referee, and I'll say, what are you going to do in the match? He'll say, oh, we're going to do the double kamikaze summit. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And these guys are in the business maybe 2-3 years part-time. I don't have a clue what that is. I don't know these new moves. I just take it with sunset flip. Say that stuff for another referee. I don't know all these moves.
yeah. Well, I have quite a few topics, and some of them may be more oriented towards Bruno. Some of them may be more oriented towards Greg. But you guys both,
I'm going to get another iced tea, so orient the first one to Golden Boy, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, as you know, Cody, my voice plays tricks on me. If I don't have tea all the time or beer at night,
yeah.
my voice goes
Yeah.
out.
I got you. I
Orient
understand.
this one to him, and I'll be right back.
Okay, I understand. Yeah. Yeah. But well, Greg, the next topic I have on my list is tell us what the origins of the Golden Boy name came from. Where did it come from?
Well, I wish it was a much better creative story, but the truth of the matter is, my favorite wrestler was the Nature Boy Ric Flair. So Nature Boy, Golden Boy. So when I started, I wanted the Golden Boy to be, this lavish, the robes and the whole thing. And the problem with that was I was 18 years old and I had like zero money. So I couldn't convince anyone that I was a limousine riding, jet flying, wheeling, dealing son of a gun. You know what I mean? So I just kind of made the Golden Boy Greg Anthony just this young, brash, up and coming, kind of guy, and that's kind of what worked for me then. But I was the Golden Boy, just the Golden Boy, no Greg Anthony with it, just the Golden Boy for about probably 3 or 4 years there in the beginning, just that, and then we added the Greg Anthony later. So, and that really felt like I was complete once we did that, because I always loved the moniker with the name and all that kind of stuff. So, that came to fruition. So.
Oh yeah. Tell us about the early years. Tell us about whenever your first match, how that was and everything like that. Tell us about that.
So, I mean, we were just some young kids trying to break into the business. We were actually like the Hardy Boys and a lot of other people at the time. We were doing backyard stuff. I mean, me and John Michael and a lot of our friends from high school and some other guys, we were doing basically backyard wrestling. And Memphis Championship Wrestling at the time was a developmental territory, and they were coming through New Bern, Tennessee, which is my and John Michael's hometown, and they weren't doing very well. They were drawing about 30 people a show, and this is when they had William Regal, they had Daniel Bryan under the mask as the American Dragon, they had R-Truth when he was still K Crush. They had Reckless Youth. They just the amount of talent that was on this roster would just bump under you, right?
Yeah.
So, but like I said, they were only drawing about 30 people a week. So John Michael's dad, who was a police officer in New Bern at the time, went up to the promoter, Terry Golden, and said, "Hey, listen, my son and a couple of his friends, they're trying to break in the business. Can you help them out?" So Terry let us come in one time before a show and kind of, saw what we could do. Right. And he said, okay, well, I'll give you guys on the next show, I'll give you guys an intermission match. Right. So
Okay.
we said, okay. So we went around for the next month in our hometown, basically telling everybody we're professional wrestlers. We're going to get a shot. We're going to get to do this, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, we go to the show and there's 200 people there. Right. There's 200 people there. And our intermission match is not really intermission. It's semi-main event now. Right. And, but Terry still protected the business. He didn't let us in the locker room with the rest of the boys. We had our own locker room separate. Right.
Mhm.
And it was me versus John Michael, you know what I mean? And we just went out there and did what we knew we could do. I mean, everything we did looked okay, but it was just, we had no psychology whatsoever. We knew nothing about good guy, bad guy, all that kind of stuff.
Well, let me ask you a question. I know Cody's the moderator, but I have a question. Do you think, in all honesty, do you think y'all being hometown guys is what brought the house from 30 people to 200?
I absolutely do think so. Because like I said, they were only drawing 30 the months prior to that. And they were doing all the same advertising they had done before. And like I said, we went around for the next month telling all of our friends and family,
Okay.
hey, we were going to do this. And then all of a sudden we had 200 people at this event.
That's good.
So, I mean, so we got to do that for several months until Memphis Championship Wrestling had lost their developmental deal. And they obviously quit doing shows. And then we caught on with a local promotion. And that's when we really got into getting our training while working and things of that nature.
Wow, that's cool. Because, me and him first met at a promotion in Arkansas. And I'm not going to get into the details of who, what, where, when, and why, but because that's in the past. But the bottom line is that's where we first met. And we hit it off right away. We became good friends down there. And that's how I got involved with Pro Wrestling Mid-South. And that's why I'm still involved to this day up here.
Let me tell you a funny story about, when not the first time I met Bruno, but this is I'd only known him a couple of months at this point, right? I'm in this locker room in Arkansas, and I'm just joking around. I'm after the show, I'm getting undressed. I go, hey Bruno, why don't you unlace my boots? Just random thing. And he goes, I'll do it. I don't care. He gets down, starts unlacing my boots, and I'm like, this can't be happening right now. Right. And then all the boys popped because they were like, I can't believe Bruno's doing it. One, I can't believe Greg got him to do it.
Yeah. Help anybody. But yeah, we worked in the promotion in Arkansas. And it wasn't the most successful promotion in the world. It wasn't our fault. We weren't in charge of it. We were just there. But there was a lot of good guys there. And there was, I became lifelong friends with this man here, with Dangerous Dan Matthews, who actually runs my Facebook page, and we're close friends.
Dan was actually our original announcer for Pro Wrestling.
I remember, because my very first appearance for Pro Wrestling Mid-South, you weren't even there. John Michaels was and Alvin Minnick were taking care of the event that night. It was in Dyersburg. That's the night they inducted me into the Hall of Champions, actually.
Right.
So, that was that was like 10 years ago, I believe.
Yeah.
So, that's the history there, Cody.
Well, before we continue on with the other topics, I got to apologize to the fans. Your guys' camera kind of froze for probably about half a minute. So,
was it? But you can still hear us?
Yeah, I can still. You guys are good now. Yeah, it kind of fixed itself. I don't know.
No, we were just sitting very still.
Yeah. But Greg, you kept mentioning John Michael. I just want to remind everybody that next Sunday, for episode 2 of the Mid-South Wrestling Center podcast, our special guest is John Michael.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, I mean,
oh yeah,
me and him grew up together. We've known each other since elementary school. So I mean, it's going to be a good one. He's a wealth of knowledge, and obviously, he's a huge part of the success of Pro Wrestling Mid-South. So.
Yes,
oh, yeah.
I like it every time he's around. I enjoy his company, and he's a big help. He helps run the locker room. I try to do my part when I'm there, and John Michaels does. Of course, this man here. So, and when Alvin Minnick's there, he's a big help. We got a lot of good helpers. Yourself, hate to say it, but James Ross, he helps us in Ripley.
No, yeah, we're not going to get into that. Yeah, like Greg said, we're not going to cross that boundary. But well, Bruno, the next topic is not taking any digs at you, but I have a video clip that I'm going to show the people, and you can tell me the origins behind it. On YouTube, it's listed as When Downtown Bruno Attacks.
Are you going to show it to us, or what are you going to talk
Any
about?
place, anywhere. You
Here it is right here.
Holy, what the heck is going on here? Downtown Bruno has just Bruno. Hey, you guys. Hey, break it up. Break it up. Bruno. Hey, downtown Bruno has just attacked Tony Freeman. What in the heck is going on here? Tony, are you okay? Downtown Bruno has just rushed the table.
You should go and sucker punch me when he got that. That was James Beard, Dad.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you
All right.
something, Cody. That right there was 100% a shoot, okay? 100%. There was a guy named Larry Burton that they brought in to oversee Memphis wrestling at that time. And he was just, let's just say, wasn't very popular among anyone.
Did he have any stake in professional wrestling before that?
None, zero.
That's okay. I want to clarify that.
He was a Hollywood guy.
Right.
And he came in. I mean, this podcast would go on to midnight if I told you all the things he did that were just negative. But to pare it down, he came in, as you know, so there was no more Dave Brown because Orlance Russell, because they wanted to be paid a good salary. Well, and Michael St. John's a great guy. I'm not saying anything against him. I like the hell out of him. But this Tony Freeman guy says, "Oh, I'll do it for free as long as I can do the ring announcement at the house shows." And then Bill Rush, who we've made up over the years, but he more or less said he would do it for free if he could referee at the house shows. So Larry Burton, who was a cocky whatever, I don't think I have to go into detail. You can tell him I wasn't a big fan. He says, "Bruno, I ain't paying you on TV no more. Why should you get paid when these guys will do it for free?" I said, "Because these guys work in auto parts stores and Walmarts. I do this for a living. They're part-time." Well, Bill Rush is better than you anyway. This is over at Channel 5. Lawler was standing there and Mike Samuels was standing there. We were in the engineering room, which was probably $250,000 or more worth of equipment in there, switchboards and screens and monitors and everything. I reached back and I punched Larry Burton in the face as hard as I could. He bashed up against the board. Then he reached back and he shoved me, and I went into the other switchboard. Lawler and Mike Samuels pulled us apart. The funny part was they were pulling us apart. "Bruno, there's $1 million worth of equipment in here." Whatever they said, "We can't have this." But they're laughing the whole time because I mean that's not my personality. I'm not Bruce or Brody. He pushed me this far. So Larry Burton goes, "That's it. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired." So I still have a referee shirt on and everything. I can't see without my glasses. I wouldn't know him from you, Cody, without my glasses. So as you see when I attack the guy, I mean, I can see shapes or whatever. I couldn't read the monitor. And Lawler, I says, "Lawler, I have to go out there on TV and beat the shit out of Tony Freeman." He goes, "I dare you." I said, "Okay, hold my glasses." And I ran out there and just beat the shit out of him on TV. And you see, when James Beard was pulling me off of him, Bill Rush took a chance to sucker punch me in the jaw. And here's the funny thing. I was in charge of the rings for Memphis Wrestling at the time. So this guy named Tony Myers, another guy nobody liked, goes, "I'll take over the rings. I'll take over the rings. Please give me the job. You don't even have to pay me to do the rings." Another one that wants to, take jobs away from professionals. Just let me wrestle on the card. Okay, well, the very first week that he had the ring at Channel 5, the very first week, it collapsed on live TV because he had no more knowledge how to put up a ring than I know how to do abdominal surgery. You know what I mean? So it's funny. Now, you're a lot younger than us, Cody. Now, you're a lot younger than me, but you're old enough to remember before cell phones. Remember, there used to be answer machines on your table next to your phone at home. Somebody would call your house. "Hi, this is Bruno Lauer. I'm not home right now. Please leave a message at the tone." Beep. There was no caller ID either. So the person would speak. "Hey, Bruno, if you're there, pick up," whatever. So anyways, I'm sitting there watching the ring and the chaos. So Steve Dahl, rest his soul, one of the Well Done. They knew he was a good friend of mine. He calls me up. "Hey, Bruno, how you doing, man? Hey, they've decided to lift your suspension." And he goes, Don't pick up. Don't pick up. I know you're listening. I know you're watching. He goes, yeah. They said, if you want to come down to Channel 5, they'll reinstate you. Don't pick up. I know you're laughing your butt off. Anyway, they thought they could get me to, which I didn't. The very next week, I says, yeah, I'll come back. I want to pay for the week that I missed. I want my ring crew back, and I want this guy out of here. Right. Oh, Larry Burton, we ain't gonna do that. We ain't gonna do that. I said, okay, I guess you just have to hope that Tony Myers is trying to put a ring up. That's when Lawler goes, no, Bruno's coming back. We're not gonna have that again. So it's funny. So me and Larry Burton end up shaking hands, whatever. I ain't gonna say we made friends, but we made nice. Right. So there was a big meeting of the whole crew. Like a month after that, we were all gathered in this ballroom in East Memphis. They had food for us and everything, and everybody was talking and going on. So Larry Burton made a speech. He goes, well, Bruno, why don't you tell everybody just what happened between you and me at Channel 5? I says, okay, everybody. I was in the corner reading the Bible, and Larry Burton attacked me. Everybody laughed. So anyway, that's the story of that clip you just seen.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we just knocked out 2 topics with Greg, so the next one is also going to be kind of oriented towards you. We got a clip with it as well if you want to watch it first. That's up to you.
Golden Boy or me?
You.
Okay.
You.
I hope it's not an embarrassing clip.
No. It's just it's got to do with the gentleman you guys were just talking about, Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock. Okay. But I found this specific clip, and it was from when he surprised you with a pickup truck. You guys told a heartfelt, I guess you could say, story about how The Rock's first vehicle come. So let's bring that clip up right now. Let's
Sounds good to me.
My first car from a crackhead.
Yep.
And what did he say? He said, who wants to buy this?
Who wants to buy this Thunderbird? I got a Thunderbird for sale. He goes, man, Bruno, can we get it? Can we get it? The guy goes, I want $80 for it.
Yeah.
I said, I'll give you 40. We'll come back tomorrow. I'll give you the other 40. No, and we'd never see him again. We took the car. I trailed him back to the Alamo Plaza. There was no license tag on the car. Nothing.
No.
The windshield was broke out. And we were driving. Well, he was driving. He pulled over. And I thought, oh, it doesn't give out already?
Yeah.
No. Another crackhead popped up from behind the seat under the blankets. Yo, dude, where we going? And Dewey said, man, you got to get out. I just bought this car from your friend. Oh, sorry, man. Let me get my stuff. Off he went.
Get out there. We get the crackhead out of the car.
All right, Bruno, it's your turn now.
Oh, it's a 100% true story. And we actually, they changed it up a little bit for Hollywood, but they featured that on Young Rock. You know, that is 100% true story. And by the way, if somebody Googles that, watches the whole clip, Dwayne even says, by the way, if you're still out there, we owe you another $40 to the crackhead. But yeah, that was a 100% true story. And later on in that clip, which I always cry when I don't want to get that way, but
yeah.
That's what he says. Well, you bought me my first car, so I'm going to return the favor. And he gave me a brand new, at the time, 2020, fully loaded, lift kit, everything, Ford F-150. So yeah, I'll keep that car till the day, that truck till the day I die. I probably won't ever have to buy another one. I've got my other Dodge, and I rent cars when I come out of town. So yeah, he did something for me that'll, change the aspect of my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now the next topic is going to be leaned towards Greg a little bit, but Bruno, I don't know. Did you ever step into TCW before?
ECW?
TCW.
Matt Rivera's
promotion.
I'll tell you real quick, and I'll let you switch gears to him. And Matt Rivera is a very, very close friend of mine. Very great guy. We stay in touch to this day. I did one shot with them. This is years and years ago. I was booked again to manage somebody, but then when the advertisement came out, it said and featuring Downtown Bruno or Harvey Whippleman. It might have been, I can't remember, but it said, and TNA superstar Jay Lethal. Well, I had to call Matt and get off the show because I'm a WWE person, employee or whatever, contract, they would say. Right. So I can't be on there with other organizations. I mean, now I think WWE is working together with TNA. Yeah. Back then they weren't.
Yeah. Not at all.
Yeah. So I had to pull off. So honestly, Matt got upset because for a while he wouldn't even speak to me. But I mean, I was looking after my own interests. But me and him discussed that. We made right. But when I first texted him about that, he goes, "No problem." Click. I didn't hear from him for like 2 years or whatever. We made up again at sad occasion at Brian Christopher's funeral, which actually is when me and Bill Rush made up again the same day. And there was actually a picture with me, Matt Rivera, and Bill Rush hugged up on each other. Imagine that. A tragic occasion.
Yeah, I don't
anyway,
know.
I'll let you discuss that.
Before we get to that, you were talking about the TNA and WWE thing. Was it around the time that I think he was going by Rory in WWE? Was that who it was? Who was the guy in the tag team that got fired for sitting in TNA's audience?
Yeah, it was Rory.
Well, I didn't even hear that story, so I don't know.
Yeah. They TNA purposely popped him up on their screen and like, WWE superstar.
They blasted him on their television.
Oh,
they got back to the office, and
so imagine if I was on Matt's show with Jay Lethal, I'd have been something. I don't know what the hell I'd be doing now.
But all right then, Greg. Yeah, the topic's over to you now. Tell us about the TCW. Tell us about Matt Riviera. How that working relationship was.
I mean, TCW was the two things that really changed the trajectory of my career were tagging with Beautiful Bobby Eaton, and that led to us being on TCW. Yeah. Originally, Matt didn't want me and Bobby. He wanted the actual Midnight Express. He wanted him and Dennis or him and Stan and Cornette and that whole thing, but that just wasn't in the cards at the time. So at the time, I took a bullshit booking in Arkansas, right? And it was one of those deals you get there and the promoter's like, well, guys, there's only 12 people out there. If you want to wrestle, you can wrestle, but I'm not going to be able to pay you, blah, 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 that kind of thing. Well, you guys know me. I just want to wrestle a lot of times. So I decided, well, I'm going to wrestle. And Riviera just happened to be there. And I went out there and I wrestled this kid that only had maybe 3 or 4 matches. And we had a really, really good match. And Riviera came up to me after the match and goes, "Hey, man, how long have you been training the kid?" And I go, "He's not my kid. He's so-and-so's kid. I just met him." He goes, You never worked with that kid before?" I was like, "No, I've never seen him before." So he's like, "You never met that kid, never did anything with him, and you went out there and had that match with him?" I said, "Yeah." And Matt Riviera booked me on everything he ever had from that point on. And that's why I tell people, you never know where opportunities are going to come. You know what I mean? I took a bullshit show in Arkansas that was in front of 12 people. I didn't get paid, but then I ended up getting on a television show that ended up being in 50 million homes. And I was on a promotion that it was in 50 million homes. It was internationally, it was in Kenya and places like that. And I was the most featured guy on the show. Like Bruno was talking about when he was the manager in Memphis, he was managing 4 or 5 different guys. Well, at this time, near the end of TCW, Matt was so, enthralled with running the company, with producing the television, with selling this and selling that he wasn't even wrestling on his own television show. And we were part of the heel group together called the Empire. And I was basically the visual representation of the Empire on the television show because he wasn't wrestling it much anymore. He would show up and cut a promo or be ringside for something, but I was the one wrestling the main events and doing that. And it was all because I took a booking in Arkansas in front of 12 people. You know what I mean? So TCW, I say to this day, top to bottom, had one of the best rosters I've ever seen in professional wrestling. We were all Southern-based guys that were just on the cusp. If we ever had the opportunity, we would have knocked it out of the park. And it was all those guys that were just knew that and were struggling to get just that little bit of opportunity. And here we're all together in TCW at one time, and we all had that healthy competition with one another. Like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to have the best match. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to steal the show. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to prove to these people why I belong to be in this business. And it was just that, like I said, that healthy competition that really drove a lot of things. And I say to this day, there is a Southern bias in professional wrestling. If you're not doing something above the Mason-Dixon line, a lot of times you're forgotten about and you're not given a lot of opportunities. If the internet wrestling community had got behind TCW the way it got behind Ring of Honor, the way it got behind Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, the way it got behind some of these other promotions across the country, we would probably still be in business to this day. But, c'est la vie, it is what it is. God has a plan and a reason for everything. And, here we are.
You were talking about TCW, and one of the topics that I like to bring out, and me and you talked about it over the weekend, and I actually went back on YouTube and watched the match, was one of the matches that stood out to me the most, and you've talked about it before, kind of tell a story after I say what I got to say, is the ladder match with X-Cal for the TCW Junior Championship.
Yes, yeah. Matt made me at one time, I was the junior heavyweight champion, and he didn't want me to be like TNA X Division style. He didn't want me to be like WCW Cruiserweight style. He wanted me to be like Nelson Royal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Danny Hodge. That kind of junior heavyweight. Like, and I cut a promo for it at the beginning, and when I started becoming the junior heavyweight champion was, I'm the best wrestler as a junior heavyweight. The heavyweight champion isn't better than me. He just weighs more than me. What I mean? That kind of thing, right? So the whole basis of the junior title at that time was, I'm just as good as a wrestler as anybody in the world. It's just I happen to weigh under 205 pounds at the time, or 210 or whatever the weight limit was. Yeah. So we go to the ladder match, and I think like the story that you're talking about is Mr. Saturday Night, Michael Berry. When this ladder match aired on television, he was working out at his local gym. And there's a point in the match where I take a backdrop over the ropes in the corner, and I hit my face on the stair steps and bust myself wide open. And he said, it's like I said, we're on television. We're in a lot of big markets and things like that. And we're on in the afternoons and the mornings and the afternoons, a lot of places. So as soon as I started bleeding, it went black and white on the thing, right? Well, when it went black and white in the gym, and people noticed I was bleeding, everyone stopped working out and they started watching the match. Michael Berry said that he witnessed it himself. Like, people stopped working out, stopped their normal workouts, and all gathered around the television to watch this ladder match. And I thought that was a pretty cool thing because, these people, they're not wrestling fans, I don't think. They're just people going to work out at the gym, what I mean? And they happen to see this match that, obviously something connected with them and enthralled them, and they went and watched it. And that ladder match, it was brutal. I end up, losing the match, unfortunately, but, with loss of blood and everything else. But like, I still get people to this day that message me about the ladder match, and then I really get people message me because TCW is still on television in Arkansas. It's still on late at night in television in Arkansas, and I still get people to message me every once in a while, like, "Hey, you remember when you did this on TCW? It was just on television last night." Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know it was still on.
Yeah, it's still on. It's been on. I've been on television in Arkansas for 10+ years.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we get into our next topic, because the next topics are going to be kind of oriented towards Bruno, we have a question got sent in on our comment section. It's a actual high school buddy of mine. He's a big wrestling fan, and he just had this question for you guys. Do you guys think wrestling is being oversaturated? Even though you're putting out a good product, there are so many shows available.
Yeah, I've always thought that. I always thought too much of anything is not good. You're right. There's all different programs. too many to look at, too many to you know. Not only that, I think there's too many championships. You know, it used to be there was a tag team champion and a main champion, maybe one smaller, you know, version or whatever. Now there's too many shows, there's too many promotions, there's too much, you know, there's too much. And I always say, even though it doesn't exactly relate to it, we're selling action, not time, you know, in the actual event. But as far as, yeah, I think your friend is totally right. I think it's I wish it would scale back a little bit. Not the companies. I just wish there wasn't so many TV shows because it's just like enough. You know, I don't want people to get that way about our profession.
Yeah, I mean, like Bruno says, if there's too much of anything, it just gets watered down in general. But like, you know, I had this conversation a couple years ago because we figured out, you know, all the television programs that was going on with WWE and AEW and, you know, TNA, Impact at the time, New Japan, all this kind of stuff. And it was something like 19 hours of new wrestling content a week.
Right.
Right. And there's no way someone can watch 19 hours of new content a week. I'd say if you watched 5 or 6 hours of new content a week, you were a major wrestling fan, right? So if you look at it by that standard, there's going to have to be some determinations made. You know, one person tried to tell me, "Hey, listen, it can only be good. Like, look how much you're on there, blah blah." But yeah, but there's only one pie, right? There's only one pie of wrestling fans, and they can only watch so much. Like I said, there's going to have to be determinations made. Something is going to get lost in the cracks, and we've seen that over the last couple of years. Like, you know, we're not talking about MLW as much. We're not talking about New Japan as much. You know, I mean, like a lot of these companies have kind of fallen by the wayside. AEW, even though they had some steam at some point, they completely, you know, wiped out their steam that they had just by bad decision making.
Never heard of that organization.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah. Well, we knocked out a couple of topics with Greg. Now it's your turn, Bruno.
What can I do for you?
The next 3 topics are actually kind of intertwined together, I guess you can say. Tell us about how your WWE debut come in and how your history with Sid, Justice, Vicious kind of intertwined with your WWE debut.
Well, you know, when Sid went to WWF, however you want to call it, that's when Vince was really, there were still territories going at the time, but Vince was pretty much taking over the world by then. And he was trying to get who he considered was the top people from every different organization that was still going. And somebody told Sid that Vince was trying to get another manager to come in. So, you know, Sid said, "Hey, what about Downtown Bruno?" And of course, by that time, I'd been in the business for 10 years. So I probably worked with 60% of the guys that were already up there. And luckily, I always had a good reputation. I always got along with everybody, never caused problems, never, you know, got heat with anybody like Bill Dundee did. You know, and I'm not putting him down, but I'm saying Bill was bad about rubbing people the wrong way. I never was that one. So Sid opened the door for me. Yes, I'll give him that 100%. He opened the door for me and got me my tryout. But like Vince himself told me that day when I first met him, he says, "Okay," he goes, "you're going to get in on your own merits." He says, "Nobody gets in because somebody recommended them. If I don't see it in you," he goes, "show me something I've never seen before." That was Vince McMahon's opening words to me when he met me. So he sent me out there to do a dark interview in Worcester, Massachusetts with Gene Oakland. And I kept it in my mind. You know, Vince wants me to show him something he's never seen before. And I've seen like a guy like Jimmy Garvin have a tryout as a manager. And I hate to say it, he's a nice guy, but major fail. You know, he just went out there and did the old BS and didn't get over it. In fact, I was standing up there in the gorilla position when he had his tryout. And Vince said, "Somebody get the hook. Enough is enough." You know, it didn't work. Well, I'm out there doing the same old thing with Gene Oakland. He's working with me real good. Yeah. And I was talking bad about Northerners and people from Massachusetts, New England. And Gene Oakland said something about, "Way up here, we don't appreciate a guy from Mississippi down up here talking about us that are up here in New England." I just reached back and I slapped the piss out of Gene Oakland. Nobody told me to do it or nothing. I just did it. And he looked at me. I looked at him. And we finished the interview. And I said, "If you do it again, I'll do even worse than that, blah, 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 whatever." So we got in the back. There was silence. And then Oakland hadn't came back yet. Vince says, I didn't like the slap. I said, oh, boy, here we go. I just blew my opportunity. And Vince goes, you need to lay it in next time. He goes, I'm going to fuss at you, or whatever word he used, in front of Oakland. I said, okay. So Vince came back and goes, don't ever slap the interviewer without being told. Don't ever do that, blah, blah, blah. Oakland walked away. Vince goes, we're going to do it again tomorrow night in Portland, Maine. He goes, you lay it in this time, pal. So me, I didn't know what the hell. I just met Vince that day, just met Oakland that day. The next day in Portland, Maine, believe it or not, I don't think they can go back and fire me retroactively now. I smartened up Oakland. I told him, And anyway, I come back through the gorilla position again, back when it really was a gorilla position. All these people now, yeah, I'm going to the gorilla position. Never even met Gorilla Monsoon. Probably wouldn't know him if he resurrected. But anyway, I got home. There was a 3-year contract for World Wrestling Federation in my mailbox, and so that was my debut, and evidently it worked.
Alrighty then. Yeah, we were just mentioning, like I said, Sid Justice, Sid Vicious, may he rest in peace. I remember I had texted you personally that morning whenever I saw that he had passed, to kind of check up on you a little bit.
Yeah, we go back. I got Sid his first full-time job in the wrestling business in '86. I was working for. I had left Memphis and was on my second run in the Kansas City territory, and Robert Fuller called me about coming to Continental, Alabama territory. Well, I had called Robert a few weeks before that. So we weren't making any money in Kansas City, and I asked Robert if he had a spot for me in Continental in Alabama. He goes, I'd like to make a spot for you. He goes, we want to do that Lord Humongous gimmick because they did it before with a different guy. He goes, do you know anybody that would fit the bill? And I thought of Sid. I didn't know him well at the time, but I knew him. And I thought of him. There was no cell phones or nothing back then. I had to do all kind of homework. I knew where his wife worked, and I called over there and left the messages. She called my hotel room. I was, whatever. Did a lot of back and forth. Finally, we connected, and I told him, they're interested in booking him in Continental. Did he want to go? And he said, yeah, hell yeah, I'd love to. He was just doing construction or something at the time. So we went to Alabama, did real good down there. It was a good territory. Excuse me, at the time. Well, I left and came back to Memphis after they turned Sid babyface because my dear friend Eddie Gilbert came in to take over the booking job in Alabama. And he brought Paul Heyman with him. Well, 2 and 2 adds up to 4 every time. I was with the old booker. The new booker's coming in with his own manager. It was time to go. So I called and went back to Memphis. Well, anyway, Sid was still there. Eddie Gilbert switched to Sid babyface, put him with Shane Douglas. Fast forward, when Eddie Gilbert left and went to WCW, he brought Sid with him. And that's Sid rolling. So all those little things fell into place. So me and Sid went back and forth. It's damn near 40 years now. Or 38. Be 39 next year.
Well,
if Sid was still with us, God bless him, of course.
Oh yeah. Tell the great people watching, what was your reaction when they come, whoever, I don't know whoever walked up to you guys and said, hey, you guys are main eventing WrestleMania 8 with Hulk Hogan?
Well, nobody just walked up to us and told us that. We knew that. We knew it for months. Believe me, WrestleMania is not something we do on a weekend.
Yeah.
We were building up. We knew it for months. I mean, there was no reaction. I mean, it was like, it's funny. I'm very funny about the business.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I work just as hard in Dyersburg, Tennessee, or in that was kind of went to for Morgan Williams, Hoxie, Arkansas, when you wrestled him, or WrestleMania at the Indianapolis Hoosier Dome. It's all the same to me. I'm in there to do the job I'm doing, whether it's painting the Sistine Chapel ceiling or if I'm painting this hotel room or my bathroom at my house, if I was a painter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm funny that way. I don't have any ego because I might be in the position I'm in because I know what I'm doing. I'm good at what I do, hopefully. But still, the guy that has that pencil that writes your name on the agenda, he's got an eraser on the other side. He's the most powerful one in the business. So I'm just, to me, I just go out there and do my best. Like I said, if I did a crappy job in Pro Wrestling Mid-South, me and him would still be best friends, but he would tell me Bruno's just not good, and I would have to accept that. Same with WWF, whatever. So,
Yeah.
it's just the same business, just in a different scale.
Well, speaking of wrestling influences, we're going to the next topic will be towards Greg here. You talk about tagging with the great Bobby Eaton. Tell us about that. Tell us how that come about, and then tell us about, because you've been in other tag teams before. You mentioned the Empire. Tell us about tagging with Bobby and tagging in the Empire.
Yeah, the Bobby thing, was Bobby Eaton was one of my idols growing up. I mean, I was always drawn to the seamless Southern heels. The Flairs, the Arns, the Tullys, the Teddy DiBiase's. Bobby Eaton. It didn't get any more seamless than beautiful Bobby Eaton. You know what I mean? Bobby Eaton, everything he did looked better than everyone else doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the way he took a post on the outside looked better than anyone else taking a post on the outside. You know what I mean? So I try to mimic how he did it. So what happened with Bobby was he was moving to Arkansas, and he was going to live with Brian Thompson, who is his legit friend and manager. You know what I mean? And they wanted someone for him to tag with in Arkansas, and they wanted someone for him to tag with in Tennessee. That way he could give the rub to two different kids and, get bookings and stuff like that. And obviously the thing was, whoever he tagged with, we would do the brunt of the match, but Bobby still got to be involved in matches, and he didn't have to bump as much because he paid his dues. You know what I mean? He paid his dues and earned the right to, to be in that position.
Yeah.
So the kid in Arkansas they picked, someone got in his ear, somebody said something to him, someone convinced him it wasn't a good idea for him to tag with beautiful Bobby Eaton. So they came back to me and they were like, "Yeah, we got to find someone else in Arkansas." And I said, "I'll do both. I get booked in Arkansas anyway. I mean, I'll do Arkansas bookings and Tennessee bookings." So then it became just me. All of a sudden this was my opportunity to get the rub. And so Midnight Gold was born with me and Bobby, and then Brian Thompson as our manager. And what Bobby really instilled in me was a lot of confidence, because he was one of the best in-ring workers of his generation. I mean, everyone says if you ask Arn Anderson who was the best worker in WCW, Bobby Eaton's one of the first names out of his mouth. And Bobby instilled a lot of confidence in me. He called me the captain of Midnight Gold, because I knew a lot of the guys we were working with already, because I'd been around. So when I would put together matches and stuff like that, I would come to Bobby and say, "Hey, we're going to do this, this, and this." And like, he would never, every once in a while, he'd ask me a question like, "Why are we doing it that way?" or something like that. And I would explain my thought process, and then he'd go, "Okay." And then we would just do it, and there was a time where, me and him were talking on the phone during this era, and like, we were just talking about wrestling in general. Then we kind of had a little quiet moment for a second. He goes, "Hey, Greg, I don't want you to be, upset about the way the business is nowadays, because I know it's not the same." He said, "But I want you to know, if it was 1985, you'd be running with us and you'd be a star." You know what I mean? And like, coming from a guy like Bobby Eaton, it meant the world to me, because, and Bruno will attest to this too, Bobby Eaton was one of the greatest in-ring competitors of all time, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, but he was a better person.
Oh yeah, great guy.
I mean, and that's saying something. When you say someone's the greatest wrestler of all time, but guess what? He was an even better person.
Yes, I've always heard my whole time in the business, there's only two guys that nobody's ever said a bad word about. That's Bobby Eaton and Brad Armstrong.
Yeah.
And that's true.
And Brad Armstrong is obviously a huge influence on me too, because when I tell the trainees, I tell them 3 baby faces they need to watch are Ricky Morton, Ricky Steamboat, and Brad Armstrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Brad for me he's the one that got away, because I probably could have had an opportunity to work him, because he was working obviously at the same period I was working, and it just never happened. You know what I mean? That's my one that got away, because I think me and him could have had fantastic matches.
No doubt. I mean, it's impossible to have a bad match if you have any talent at all with a guy like Brad Armstrong or Jerry Lawler or Bobby Eaton, and there's quite a few others. But I'm saying we're talking about Bobby and Brad. These two guys were two of the best there ever was in the story, and two great guys. Brad, the whole Armstrong family, I'm close with them, very close. And just Bob Armstrong was influential to me when I was starting out, and I never forgot that either.
Yeah, so I mean, me and Bobby tagging was a huge deal for me, and then I've been lucky when it comes to tag partners. I had him, and then me and Matt Riviera. When we were the Empire, I truly believe we were the best tag team in the NWA, and we never got the opportunity to be the NWA World's Tag Team Champions for political reasons. It's just plain and simple. That's what it was, because we had everything. We had all the heat. We had the good matches. We had the look. We had everything we needed to be. And just, people didn't like that. So we never got that opportunity. And then I got to be, randomly, I got to be tag team champion with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So, I mean, it's like, I think I've got a pretty good pedigree of tag, not to mention wrestling against. I wrestled with Bobby a lot, but then I wrestled against the Rock and Roll Express quite a bit. So, I mean, that's, two of the greatest tag teams in history right there that I've had ring time with. So I take a lot of pride in tag team wrestling. Even though I'm known more as a singles wrestler, I take a lot of pride in tag team wrestling.
Now, this next topic is going to be kind of a combined, both of you. I know, Bruno, we talked about it over the weekend. You don't like doing this. You don't like doing this, but both of you guys, and I know this is going to be coming from two different eras, two different answers, completely answers. Who, whether it be now, before, anything like that, who are your guys' top 5 Mid-South area wrestlers, whether it be past or present?
Well, it's almost impossible. And I don't mind the question, but I hope you don't mind the answer. There's too many guys that are too good. I mean, and plus, what's the criteria? Who drew money? Who was the best worker? Who was the nicest to me? Whatever. But I mean, there's no doubt, just because he's one of my main mentors in the business who really helped give me my life, Jerry King Lawler. He's the best there ever was around here. Period. End of story. Tremendous. One guy I managed named Phil Hickerson, who was the best heel I ever managed in my up and coming days. He was so good to me. I learned a lot from him as well. Those guys are great. Hey, and don't take nothing away from Handsome Jimmy. He drew a lot of money in his day before he got, older and, real skinny and everything. Drew a lot of money. I mean, it's just, I can't narrow it down to 5, but there's a lot of guys that meant a lot. Rocky Johnson was here, drew a lot of money in this area. And, he's one of my mentors and one of my best friends for life, even though he's with God now. He's still in my heart. And he drew a lot of money with Lawler. He drew a lot of money with other people here in Memphis. So, it's hard for me even narrow it down,
I mean, for me, it is, like he said, it's so hard. There's so many great talents that came through Memphis and the Mid-South, stuff like that. And the only one everyone's going to agree on is Lawler. I mean, Lawler being on there, obviously, we've already discussed how influential he was to both of us. For me, Dundee, just because I did have a personal relationship with Dundee, he taught me a lot about booking and things of that nature. And he can be cantankerous at times, but and we had that little relationship with that too. But I mean, so Lawler, Dundee, I'll put Bobby on there because he was a Tennessee guy.
True.
He was a Tennessee guy and stuff like that. And then I'll put Randy Savage on there because he had a really good run in Memphis, and this run led to his big WWF run. And he's also in my top 5 of all time, I think now. That last spot, though, you're right. That last spot's hard to do. You got Austin Idol, you got Handsome Jimmy, you got Terry Funk,
you got Tommy Rich, Eddie Gilbert.
Eddie Gilbert's a good one for me because obviously I'm more geared towards the bookers and the thinkers and that kind of thing. And I think that's what Eddie was.
Yeah. Oh,
I never got to meet Eddie, so I mean, you would have to.
Yeah, me and Eddie were very, very close. We butted heads a few times too, but who don't when you're close with somebody, especially doing business. But Eddie's a great guy. Yeah, and he's very smart and really understood the business.
Right.
Some guys just get in there and work and leave. Eddie thought 8 steps ahead. He was very, very smart.
I heard that he was really good at. He knew he could feel when the angle needed to blow off.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a prime example, but I'm sure that's true because he was very, he was very intelligent like that. Absolutely. So, there's a lot of great guys. And then as far as the whole business itself, I mean, I recommend anybody that's breaking in to go on Google, YouTube, whatever. Look at the magnificent Morocco. This guy was the heel's heel. Yeah. He was, when they turned him babyface, I guess it was keeping him a job because he was one of the best heels ever. And one of my, I'm not going to say regret something that was your own fault. Not regret. I don't know what the word is, but I always wished he would have came to Memphis and I managed him in a big thing with Lawler because I think that would have been great matches and drew a lot of money. So I don't know what regret's not the word. I didn't do anything to cause it. What's the word? Just disappointment.
Yeah, disappointment.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like I said earlier that I was always attracted to the seamless Southern heels, right? Well, Don Morocco is the exception to that rule. He wasn't a Southern heel, but he was that type. He still worked that type of way,
right?
But he was more of a Northern guy,
right?
You know what I mean? But he still worked like the Ted DiBiase's and the Arns and the Bobbies,
right?
Stuff like that. And like you said, he was just phenomenal. The matches with Pedro, the matches with Tito Santana,
right?
Just all those baby faces of the time.
And don't forget Snuka.
Oh yeah, Snuka.
Yeah. The match in Morocco was Snooker word, and Pedro too. Put it like this here: a lot of people understand our business as sports entertainment without getting too graphic into it. If you never heard that and you never knew that, and you watched it on YouTube, Morocco against Pedro Morales in Madison Square Garden, I think it was 1981, might have been 82, when Morocco dropped the title back to Pedro Morales. If you didn't know our business was sports entertainment, watching that match, you would never ever still know.
Yeah,
by watching it.
Yeah, because it's a little ugly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the way it's supposed to be because it's supposed to be a fight, and there's no such thing as a perfect fight.
Right.
So it needs to have that little bit of grit to it and a little bit of whatever, and they had that in abundance.
Because there's crap nowadays I see on certain shows. I'll jump over you, then you jump over me, then we'll both jump up together, and then we'll both dive over the top rope on 3 guys that are waiting to catch us.
Well, for the younger guys that are watching this right now, I know I get accused of being grumpy Greg, and I don't like anything new and all this kind of stuff. I want just one little tidbit of psychology that I just want to add to you guys. If you've never wrestled a guy before, you've never touched him before, you've never seen him wrestle before, that's your angle going into this match. You guys have never seen each other. It's the first time ever you guys wrestle each other. How do you know how to reverse each other? How do you know how to reverse every single thing the other guy does? There is 78 reversals in a match now. It's where when Bruno was coming up and the kind of the way that I learned how to work was there wasn't a lot of reversals. You know what I mean? You had some reversals, but it wasn't like this incognitive, I know exactly what to do in an exact moment when to do it, like it's the Matrix thing. Right. You know what I mean? It was actually from if someone went for a backdrop 3 times, they may have backdropped you twice, but on the third one you small packaged them because they had already done it twice in a row or twice beforehand.
Right.
So, and that's where little nuances of psychology get lost in today's wrestling.
Right. True. Very true.
Well, before we continue on to the next topic, we have another. Mr. James Wiggins has commented. I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe Greg knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about.
Okay. Maybe you can explain this. I have no idea.
I don't remember what the shirt was, but James had wore a shirt, and it was wrestling related. It was something like I'm a heel, or it was something kind of insider. You know what I mean? And Dundee cussed him out for having the shirt on, blah blah blah. Well, the whole funny part about it was I was wearing the exact same shirt downstairs, and Dundee never said anything.
Well, shit. That's how Dundee was. God bless him. He's not doing very well right now. I wish him nothing but the best. But sometimes Bill was his own worst enemy.
And sometimes he was great, though.
Yeah, you never knew.
That's the thing. Like, I had so many things where, like, I really appreciated everything he did for me in some cases. Like, I did the House of Hardcore thing for Tommy Dreamer a couple years ago. And like he said, well, I'm gonna put you in the 6-man. You know, Dundee's on the other side because I know Dundee trained you. And I go, Dundee didn't train me. He goes, Dundee didn't train you? I was like, no. He said he did. I said, well, it's history now. I guess Dundee trained me.
Maybe it feels like if y'all work together, he was training you in the ring.
Maybe so. But just the fact that he would, put a stamp on
Right,
it.
that's good.
Yeah, he gave me the rub a little bit with that. So
That's good. God bless Bill. You know, I just hate some of the things that happened.
yeah.
But I'm gonna keep this positive. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They. I think we booked him in Ripley for Ripley Mania one year, and he come in, and all of our merch tables was kind of lined up. He goes, who am I facing tonight? And we pointed to the people. He goes, well, okay, where's my table? We're like, oh, you're right next to him. He goes, no. He goes, move my table far away from them.
well,
Like, we're not doing this.
It's
Oh,
called
yeah.
protecting the business.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love Bill to death.
100% right on that.
Yeah, last time I saw Bill was Jonesboro, Arkansas.
Yeah,
Jason Jones.
we were there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He was there, yeah.
Yep. Next topic is towards Bruno again. We were talking about WrestleMania 8, but I don't think a lot of people realize you were not only in WrestleMania, you were WrestleMania 8, WrestleMania 9, and WrestleMania 10. Now
That's
I have
correct.
a clip. I have a clip for your WrestleMania 9. You managed Giant Gonzalez, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I have a clip here from the Undertaker's new podcast, 6 Feet Under, with Mark Calloway, and I got a video clip from a little clip from him, and we'll go over that clip, and I'll get your opinion on it. See what you think about it.
Okay.
Patient as long as I could be. Every time we'd go back to the dressing room, George, when you pull me down, make sure you hit me. And I would grab another person and show them the shoulder blades.
This is where the shoulder blades are located.
This is your landing zone right here.
Yeah.
Hit me as hard as you want. I don't care. Just hit me here. He'd shake his head like he understood me. And I'd go to Bruno, Harvey Whippleman. Harvey, he got it. He know. Yeah. He's got it. Next night, same thing.
All right, Bruno,
You know what?
there it is.
George was a really good guy, and Undertaker's a great guy.
Yeah.
And what it was, I couldn't get in George's head. I would say, you understand, don't hit Undertaker right in the back of the neck. Hit him in the broad of the back. Simple. I get, I do. And then he would turn around and do exactly the opposite. And I felt bad because I would tell Undertaker, I told him, Mark, I don't know what else to do. And that's just, Undertaker knew it wasn't my fault. And George, I know George, I can speak for him, even though he's not with us anymore. He was not a mean guy. He wasn't trying to. He just put it like this here. When it came to being a professional wrestler, he would have been a hell of a basketball player.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But a great guy. And the look, it just wasn't very talented in the ring, unfortunately. He was all look. What's the old saying? All hat, no horse.
Oh. Well, next to the topic we're going to bring up is WrestleMania 10. It is Harvey Whippleman versus Howard Finkel in a tuxedo match. Tell us how that got set up.
Well, I'll tell you. We didn't wrestle at WrestleMania. That wasn't. We set it up at WrestleMania. We wrestled.
Okay.
I wish the hell I would have wrestled at WrestleMania because that would have been a better payday than me just shoving him down. But no, we just started it that day. Howard and me got an argument or whatever.
Okay.
And I ripped his tuxedo, and then he shoved me down. And when Adam Baum came to see about me, Earthquake beat him in like record time. Very quick time. But let me tell you, me and Howard, we blew the angle off at Monday Night Raw. It was the 10th anniversary of Raw, I think, or 100th episode, something. It was some significant episode. But anyway, long story short, I can say that I wrestled semi-main event in Madison Square Garden because I forget what the main event was, probably a world title match or something. But I had to wrestle Howard in Madison Square Garden. So Vince gave us the outline of the match and said, Howard, you're getting your hand raised. You're going over tonight. They played Hulk Hogan's music, whatever. Howard went to the ring and everything. Then Vince looked at me and says, I changed my mind. You're going over, but don't tell Howard. I said, oh, boy. So I get out there, and I'm in there with Howard, and I can't beat him to save my life. You know, and he's not like a big tough guy or nothing, but he knows that Vince told him that he was winning. So Howard would not let me beat him. Finally, I stomped him on the head. I mean, not hard where it hurt him, but where he knew he had to sell. And I stomped him on the head. I just said, Howard, stay down. I ended up winning the match. But that was Vince's rib. That he told us both we were going over, but he told me not to tell Howard. So, you know, I've been in that situation before. There was a girl that had me wrestle in Memphis named Emily Arthur. She's no longer with us either. God bless her. But one night we were in Jonesboro, and I was supposed to go over, but she didn't know how to work. She wasn't a big fat girl. She was a regular sized girl, but she put her knees right in here, like on me. And the Calhoun 1, 2 kick out. And she beat me because I couldn't kick out. So the next night we were in Nashville. And in Nashville, where we wrestle, the good guys are on one side of the building, the bad guys are on the other side of the building. We're not in there together. So Eddie Marlin and Calhoun and all them gas my head up. You better get out there and just hook her and pin her after what she did to you last night. You hook her and you beat her in that ring. So Calhoun's refereeing. We're out there, and I keep trying to pin her. And Calhoun goes, Bruno, Jesus Christ, you're supposed to pin her. I said, F Calhoun, I can't. I couldn't beat her. She was bigger than me and more athletic. And back those years, all I did was smoke cigarettes and drink beer. So I'm in better shape now at 59 than I was back then at 19. And I couldn't beat her. So finally, we got to working, and she put me over, but I couldn't beat her. I ain't gonna lie. Same thing with Howard. I didn't want to hurt him.
Yeah.
He was a great guy.
Well, the next 3 topics, we're going to switch over to Greg Anthony with these.
Yeah, and you know what, Cody, I was going to tell you, before I didn't mean to interrupt, but this is going really well, and I'm enjoying it. But like we talked about, less is more. We've been doing this for an hour and a half now. So let's start winding down so the people have something to want to come back for next time.
Oh, yeah. The next 3 topics kind of intertwine together anyway for Greg Anthony. So tell us about.
Before you're asking him, I've got a text to return for a guy from Walls, Mississippi Business. I'm going to excuse myself for a minute, but I will be right back.
Okay. All right, then. So explain to the people how NWA Mid-South come about, the NWA affiliation, and the whole transition from NWA to Pro Wrestling Mid-South.
So, NWA is kind of a weird thing anyway. I mean, NWA is all about who's in charge of it at that particular time, and every time someone new takes over, it's kind of like a complete change in the guard. They kind of try to forget who had it last, all that kind of stuff. So in the early 2010s, I'd say 2012, 13, somewhere in there, Bruce Tharp took over the NWA. Mm-hmm. Now, when Bruce Tharp took over the NWA, what we had heard was that Bruce Tharp was just a lawyer, that somehow, he had sued the NWA for some stuff that they, I think they had falsified, kind of weren't telling the full truth on some stuff, and he had sued them and gained control of the NWA. Obviously, me thinking, it's just, he's not in the business, he's just a lawyer. Well, come to find out that Bruce Tharp actually, he wrestled, he refereed, he announced. His father was an announcer in the Florida territory, so he had a history in professional wrestling. We found this out. We went to CAC, the Colorado Alley Club thing, in Las Vegas every year, and he was there, and we got to know him, stuff like that. So we kind of became friendly with him, and I was already thinking about starting my own wrestling company here in Dyersburg to try to do a family-friendly oriented event like we've been talking about. So I decided to make it an NWA. So we signed up for the NWA, and we were NWA Mid-South because that's actually the company that I started with after the Memphis Championship Wrestling deal I told you about. We started on with a NWA Mid-South Warriors of Wrestling, which was Alvin Minnick's company, the NWA Mid-South part. So that's what I kind of started out with, and we did that as a continuation of what Alvin had started in the late 90s. So our title history and all that kind of stuff goes back to then. And, you know, everything was going really well, and we thought everything was going great for a couple of years there. And then all of a sudden it came out that Billy Corrigan was going to buy the NWA. And I was pretty livid about Billy Corrigan buying the NWA because, you know, I just don't think he has the knowledge to run a wrestling company like that, because I went actually, when he was in CAC, I went to his seminar because I wanted to hear what Billy Corrigan's thought process was on professional wrestling. And I went to a seminar and I didn't really agree with what he had to say about professional wrestling. He thought professional wrestling should be presented like all other entertainment. It should be presented like it's a movie, pretty much. That I should be, Terry Bollea should be Terry Bollea playing the character of Hulk Hogan. And that after matches and things like that, pretty much like we should have you remember how Walking Dead would have an episode, then after the episode, they'd have Talking Dead, where the actors were on there. They talk about the episode they were just on. That's how he thought professional wrestling should be. We should have Monday Night Raw, and then after Monday Night Raw, we should have Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns sit down and explain why they had the match that they had. And I was like, that doesn't work. That's never going to work for professional wrestling. So I was very against Billy Corrigan buying the NWA. And when he bought the NWA, you know, there was still some hem-haw back and forth about, you know, is he going to keep the affiliates? Is he not? You know, if he kept the affiliates and kind of left us alone, I was still going to be kind of on board with it. And he'd actually sent out Dave Lagana to Dyersburg, you know, to look at our building and things like that, because they were actually thinking about doing the NWA tapings from Dyersburg. But they looked at it and then they were like, well, we want to use it, but we're not going to use you or any of your guys on the thing. It's just going to be us using your building and my ring and my setup and the whole thing. And I was like, well, that's absolutely no benefit to us, really. So I turned it down. But then after a couple months after that, you know, it came out that he was not going to renew anyone's contract, that he was going to completely get rid of all the affiliates. And basically what he did was he left us in the lurch. You know, like I had 2 weeks to completely rebrand our company from NWA Mid-South to Pro Wrestling Mid-South. And they, you know, obviously it's an expense to rebrand an entire company when you talk about websites and, you know, signage and all the stuff that goes into making a company. So, you know, Billy Corrigan, I haven't really liked what he's done with the NWA and everything that's been going on. So, you know, in the very beginning, you know, they caught a lot of press because, you know, it looked like the old studio wrestling. It looked like the old Crockett promotion, you know, that old school NWA stuff, and people were praising it. And then I remember a tweet that they put out saying, hey, listen, we're not your throwback company. We're going to be very progressive. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Basically, you know, telling everybody, hey, listen, we don't care that you like old school wrestling. You know, we're still going to be doing it new school, you know, blah, blah, blah. Then about a week or so later, Edge had actually tweeted them saying, hey, NWA, I love your look. I love what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And they're, oh, thank you so much, Edge. Yeah, we try to be this. And it was completely, you know, hypocritical. It was completely two-faced on their part. And that's kind of what I've always kind of felt with them. Is like there's just this huge disconnect between what professional wrestling is and what they're trying to make it. They're sitting here trying to present us the 10 pounds of gold, and then they do stuff where they do a segment with a guy doing cocaine. You know what I mean? It's like, why would you ever think that was okay to put on your television? You know, so like, I'm just not a fan of it. I'm glad that we're not affiliated with the NWA. You know, I've been very vocal about this the last, you know, this has been 7 years now, 7, 8 years. So, I'm glad that we're Pro Wrestling South and we're doing our own thing. We're a family-friendly, Christian-based professional wrestling company, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that we give all glory to God and that we do things the way we do them.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
I worked for the NWA when it really was the governing body of the profession. Bob Geigel out of Kansas City was the president of the NWA, and I worked there at that time. So, that means something to me.
Oh, yeah. Well, like Downtown Bruno has said, we're going to kind of slowly wind down here. The last topic for you guys is towards Greg again. I was there the day that you were supposed to face Tim Storm for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, and then your heart stuff come.
Yeah.
So how does it feel after so long finally being a World Heavyweight Champion?
Well, I mean, it means a lot to me. I really felt like I had the tools and I had the ability to be the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. I just never really got that opportunity. You know what I mean? And here's the AIWF who approached me and they were like, we love what you do. We love who you are. We think you would be an excellent, face for this company. So when I won the world title, I won the world title for the first time in June of 23, and there was 90 promotions across 30 countries. And since I've been champion, now we have 150 promotions across 50 countries. And I think that's, like me and the powers to be at the AIWF have talked about, like that's a large partly due to my visibility and what I stand for in professional wrestling. There's a lot of companies that came on specifically because I was the champion, and what I present professional wrestling is the same thing Bruno grew up in the business doing and stuff like that. I want old school professional wrestling, like the Moroccos and the Pedros and the Lawlers and the everyone in between. Yeah. So the fact that the AIWF, really the only thing I ever asked for was an opportunity, right? And since I've had the opportunity, I've made the most of it. So I'm proud to be AIWF World Heavyweight Champion. I've got to go to Chicago and the Carolinas and South Louisiana, where all the Cajuns are. So I'm proud to carry the title and do the best I can with it.
All righty then. Well, gentlemen, like I said, we're winding down this podcast. It was great having you guys on. Go ahead and tell the people what you two are up to nowadays, and if you guys have anything upcoming that you want to put over.
Well, I'm fortunate to be an ambassador with WWE, and I take care. I'm a very loyal WWE person. Been with them for well over 30 years, and hope the next 30, as long as I make it to 90 years old or whatever. I'm basically the senior referee official at Pro Wrestling Mid-South. I'm basically the senior official and occasional color commentator on Bluff City Wrestling. I go to many conventions and signings and appearances at different organizations that want me to be there, which I was grateful for and happy to do it. And I'm an elected official in my hometown of Walls, Mississippi. Election is again in June of 2025. I want to get reelected at least one more 4-year term. And on my time that I'm not on the road, I take care of a lot of property around Walls. I ride a tractor. I push a lawnmower. I'm not one to sit around. If I'm not traveling with the business, I don't sit around. I'm pushing a lawnmower. I'm riding a tractor. I want to stay tan and healthy and exercised up, because at 59 years old, if you sit around, pretty soon you're going to end up just sitting around, and I don't want to be that guy.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm up to.
Yeah, for me, I mean, obviously, Home Promotions Pro Wrestling Mid-South, we do every Friday night in Ripley, Tennessee, and we do every Saturday night in Dyersburg, Tennessee. We are available for birthday parties and school fundraisers and all that kind of stuff in between. We do about 125, 150 events a year just through Pro Wrestling Mid-South. I'm obviously traveling with, the AIWF World Heavyweight title and that thing. Like I said, I've been in Chicago and Louisiana and the Carolinas and Arkansas and Missouri and Illinois and everywhere in between. But also, with Pro Wrestling Mid-South, we have our own ministry, which is Genesis 3224 Ministries, and we hold services every Sunday night at 6 in Dyersburg at the Herb Welch WrestlePlex there in Dyersburg at 1827 St. John Avenue. And we are a non-denominational, non-judgmental Christian service. Our main thing is we just want to help people. We want to help lead people to Christ. And then I tithe my money, but we have other people that give us offerings and things like that. And I just take that money and we use it to help people in the community. I pay people's electric bills or their water bills, or if I see a family that looks like they're struggling in Walmart, I'll pay their grocery bill. Just whoever the Lord puts in front of me that we think needs help, we try to fill that help as much as we can.
Well, that's awesome. That's
Well,
awesome.
there you go, Cody. And hey, I'm sure we'll do this broadcast again. I encourage everybody to listen and watch it. Like I always say in the wrestling business, less is more. That's why I know we can go on and talk for hours and have a great time, but we don't want the people to get enough is enough, like we talked about earlier. So let's save some for your next guest and the guest after that, and so people still stay invested. And I want to see you do very well, and I encourage everybody to tune in and make sure that you forward this to the Facebook page, Downtown Bruno Bookings and Appearances, and Pro Wrestling Mid-South, so the followers of each of those pages will get a chance to watch this at their convenience.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I think we made pretty good time. I mean, this is a double guest episode. I had to try to get all the topics in for both of you guys in. But well, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All righty then. There you have it. The debut episode of the Mid-South Wrestling Center podcast is in the books. I would like to personally thank the current AIWF World Heavyweight Champion, the Golden Boy, Greg Anthony, and Memphis Wrestling Hall of Famer, Downtown Bruno. If you like to see what Bruno's up to, like he said, go to his Facebook, Downtown Bruno Bookings and Appearances. Also, check out Pro Wrestling Mid-South on Facebook. That's where you'll know where Greg is every Friday and Saturday night. I hope everybody can check out next week's episode. It's going to be a great episode. It's going to contain one of my best friends I've got to know in the business for the past 8 years. He's the current Dyersburg branch manager. He is 1/3 of the legendary Mid-South Tag Team Picture Perfect, and it is John Michael. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are ending the show as we speak. Hope everybody can tune in next week. See everybody then.